two idiots on Facebook Live. Listen to these morons. Oh gosh, the internet is great. Steve, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well.
Awesome,
Really
awesome.
well.
How's Vista?
Vista's good. A lot of interesting things happening in Vista for sure. A lot of development. I've started to get more on Nextdoor, which is, most of it is, I just heard a loud bang. What's that? Is that a gunshot?
Nextdoor.
Yeah, but
it's always the most like scared person.
Absolutely.
If
you're paranoid, if your power went out for 5 minutes, and it might have been the breaker, but it might be World War III. Let me check Nextdoor really quick. Is anybody else posting about it? But it's been interesting to just kind of see the things, things in the community that are important to people. There's a proposed roundabout that was in a discussion right now to stop. Yes. Don't do the roundabout. Thank you, goodness. Vista is my people. I need to go there. All the roundabouts are killing me. If you go to Orange County, it's just roundabout, roundabout. Go straight through the roundabout. You can't go straight through the roundabout. I have to take a second right or something. It's just crazy. Bird Rock filled with roundabouts.
Roundabouts everywhere. Just blow my brains out. Just blow my brains roundabout.
Yeah, I love it.
So, the new home buyer.
Oh, we're talking about something.
Yes, we do have something to talk about. New home buyer in San Diego, it's changing.
I agree.
It is.
Yes.
You have a better, seat for the show than I do in this regard.
Right.
But I see it too, 100%. Because if you look at what's on the market, what sells quickly, what doesn't,
right,
what's a challenge, it's very clear. Only people who want bargains are investors. Only people who want homes that aren't turnkey are investors.
I certainly agree, and as an agent, now what I get are text messages, emails from somebody that says, hey, I'm a cash buyer, I'm looking for off-market deals, I'm looking for fixers. That's one of our new demographics, is we've seen investors that say that they recognize once the house hits the market, it's a frenzy. So let me see what I can do in order to backtrack. Let me see what I can, is it possible that I can get it prior to it coming on the market?
Right, and that's again an investor though.
Right.
Right, a cash investor.
Right.
So the typical home buyer, let's say homeowner, eventual homeowner, might buy the house from that investor once they've got it turnkeyed out.
Right.
That's a likely happening. But what we've seen, I think, is just a shift. So the macro elements of this shift and why I think we have a low inventory circumstance is because of the baby boomers, for example, have gone through the real estate crisis, things like that. Most of them who held onto their house, never leaving.
Right. Just
never leaving. We're seeing a lot of people who staying in their homes longer than they used to. Pre-crisis last time in California, it was like under 4 years.
Was the average time?
Someone had stayed in their home before they sold it.
Yeah.
So I think that number is just extending out to probably a normal rate. But if you think about it, if it goes to even just 7 years, that's a 4-year window of a drought, from the spigot in that pipeline of people coming into the marketplace.
Absolutely.
So I think we're experiencing that. And then also the new buyers.
Right.
This is a group, and it's not just millennials. Some of them are even younger than that. Some of them are a little bit older, but have a lot of the same tendencies. And I think what we're going to see is where, like my generation, like I want to talk to someone. When I call customer service or email customer service and they say, here's the link, go figure it out. I hate that. I'm like, pick up the freaking phone.
Right.
I have a question I need someone to answer. I've already looked at your links, you know what I mean? That they're not like me.
Right.
They'd rather figure it out. And if they can't figure it out, they'll just be like, screw you, I'm done.
Right.
I'm going to the next company. And it's that particular consumer that I think is the next wave of buyers. They haven't gotten there yet, but they're getting there. And this is what some of the big real estate websites like Zillow and Redfin, this is who they're pointing at.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I definitely agree that that there's a variety of questions that you brought up there. One is the consumer, there's always a push towards service. And the more and more that there are items that, hey, just go figure it out. Hey, the consumer has so much choice, whether we're talking real estate, whether we're talking about redoing your kitchen, whatever it is, you are inundated by information. And if you can't do it and you don't give me the answer that I want, then I'm going to be able to go somewhere else. So if you send me a link on Figure It Out and I want to talk to somebody, there's going to be choices. So the first part of the answer to your question is, in terms of how will the Redfins and the Zillows and is the industry changing is kind of what I hear there. I think that for a lot of consumers, it's going to be based on a level of service. If all they're looking for is the price of the home and some basic comps and stuff that can all be done online, and they feel like, why am I paying 6% to some real estate agent to just give me that information? Then I completely agree that those areas, Zillows and Redfins and Trulias and whoever else there is, they're going to be able to fill that need. They're going to be able to match that. However, when it comes to service, when it comes to, I have an issue and I have a unique situation. I'm selling a property and buying another. I have an investment property and there's been tax changes, and what do you recommend? When you need a professional, that's where it's going to be really interesting to see where, and I don't mean to call them discount brokerages, but they're certainly
streamlined, sort of assembly line.
They're working in quantity.
Yeah.
They're working in that they're able to lower their margins, and hey, Mr. or Miss Consumer, we'll give you a better deal, but here's the deal, we're going to work in quantity. So we're not going to come over and hug you.
Do you know what the equivalent to that is in the car industry?
No, hit me. What is it?
If someone who's watching this live right now answers it correctly, I'll give you $100 cash and a $200 Southwest gift card, which is a regift, but that's okay because it's still worth $200 Southwest.
Didn't I give you that for Christmas?
So,
wait a second. Is it a bread machine that you're giving out?
Oh, and a bread machine. So if you could answer, what is the car equivalent to that? What's up, James? How you doing? Bag holders. That's the new home buyer. Give me the answer. What is the car equivalent to Redfin and Zillow, which is quantity-based? You know, it's based on big quantity. Their whole business model is based on, hey, we're going to have this nationwide, large quantity presence. I'll give you 30 seconds to answer. $200 Southwest, $100 cash, and a bread maker.
Ready? Go. Meanwhile, we can continue to talk about, so then the second part of your question, and just interrupt me here, but the second part of your question is, how is the buyer changing, is kind of what I heard. Is there a new demographic? Is there, as things change? What I'm beginning to see is more of the assisted buyer. The, hey, let's work together. This market is going up. There's been changes in this market. Let's work together to create a solution that's good for both of us. I would say that the market of 2017 was had a strong case of underlying fear. The fear of, as we talked about over the last year, am I creating the new top as a buyer? Should I wait this out? I'm giving up everything. Should I rent? All of those kinds of discussions. And of course, we talked about staging and a variety of things. And now what I think that 2018 is going to be reflected with is a buyer which is, okay, we've made the decision we're going to buy. We're going to jump into this market regardless, for whatever reason, whether that's because of we're having a baby, we're getting married. Our decision is, as we talked about before coming live here, is that the average buyer is staying longer in a home. Was that since we started?
Yeah.
That people are staying longer in their homes. So if somebody is making a decision that they're going to stay longer in their home and they're looking for a solution, now what we're seeing is the assisted buyer. I'm 25 years old. I have good income. I have no down payment. Mom and dad will give me the down payment because mom and dad are a millennial that have been in the same house since 1979. My parents. Been in there for a long time. That house is paid off. They got all kinds of equity. They're concerned, not my parents specifically, but everybody has the fear that goes in with, so I've got money now because the market's good, because I've been working hard. Where do I put it? Do I put it in the stock market? You know where I'll put it? I'll put it with my kids. I'll pass it on. I heard somebody call it legacy money. That I've got $200,000 to invest. I'm going to invest in you because I love you and I've got a relationship with you. Those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's one of them. The other one is I've seen people that are looking for solutions with their parents. Maybe they're mid-30s. I have clients now that are late 30s that they're looking for a property where they're potentially looking with his husband and wife, and they have a daughter, with his parents. So looking for
dual situation,
whether it's a granny flat or a big property where they could build a granny flat or those kinds of scenarios.
And some laws have been
working together.
Working towards that too,
right.
As well. And you mentioned taxes, and that's definitely something that is a big deal right now, which we'll be talking about. So, all right, 2 guesses. James says TrueCar. Maria, hey, what's up, Maria? She says Costco. And the actual answer that I was looking for is CarMax. Correct, Jade. So is CarMax. Now, here's what we can learn. Not that it's necessarily parallel between the two industries.
But there's similarities.
There's similarities. And with CarMax, it's kind of the same thing. Website, you can look, you can view a lot of cars that may not be in the same state. They might be in the region, or they might be in, you can use a mileage filter. So it's very similar, web-based, national. What we noticed about CarMax, and the big thing everyone can take away about CarMax, if you have a car to sell and you're going to sell it private party, in other words, you don't want to trade it in, sell it to CarMax. Trust me on this. They will pay you more for your car than you will get if you put it on Craigslist and go through the whole rigmarole of having people come look at it and all that crap. They'll pay you more money. The downside is, if you buy a car from CarMax, it will cost you more money. Plain and simple. So if we can learn anything from that, it's that when you scale something like this, at the end of the day, there's a part of it that's good, and then there's a part of it that's not. And so the question is, you have to decide which part is most important for you as far as value is stuck. James has a question for us. He said, can you discuss the possibility of being stuck in your home, meaning with interest rates higher and less deductible taxes? So why move?
So I think what he's talking about, great question. I think, and with 2018, some things are changing.
Correct.
Which is 2018 in your primary residence and your secondary home, which they consider a vacation home. So if you have rentals, none of this applies. But in your primary residence, it used to be that if you had a loan amount of $1 million or less, that you could write off any of the interest associated with that. $1 million loan, we're looking at principal here.
Right.
Anything beyond that, and it's only loan amount, not the dollar amount that you purchased the house for. But if you bought a house for $2 million and you have put $1 million down and you got a $1 million loan, you can write that off. Starting in 2018, so actually the rules are if you purchased after, if your purchase contract is after, I want to say December 15th, and I will put a caveat here of speak to your CPA, but purchased after 2015, starting in January, and there's a couple of, if your purchase contract is before December 15th and you close before April 1st of 2018, you still fall in the old rules. So you can write off now in 2018 a loan amount of $750,000. Again, this is primary residence and vacation home, and you add those together. So I don't own a vacation home at all, but if I own something up in Big Bear that had a loan amount of $300,000, that $300,000, and it was purchased after in 2018, then those added together is what you can write off, a maximum of $750,000. The other side of it is the property tax side of it, which is now they're adding up your state and federal income tax along with your property taxes, and the maximum amount that you can write off is $10,000 of that. So as some basic numbers, I asked a CPA yesterday, if somebody was earning $50,000 a year as an estimate, how much would they pay in state and federal income taxes? Around $3,500. So if you have a $500,000 house at 1.25%, your property taxes are going to be $5,500 in that range. So $5,500 and $3,500, there's $9,000. Mm-hmm. So anybody that's beyond that, most people, that's going to affect. So to answer James's question, can you discuss the possibility of being stuck in your home, meaning the interest rate is higher?
Yeah, once you get grandfathered into taxes, that's also one of the reasons, because people they have the, I think it's Prop 60 or 61, where they can keep their tax basis.
60 and 90.
60 and 90.
You can do it one time. You have to be over the ages of 55. It has to be both a primary residence, meaning that I'm 60 years old, I'm selling my primary residence, and I have to move to equal or lesser value. The idea being,
even if you don't move, I think was what he's saying. Even if you don't move, you have that lower tax basis, right, in your current home. And you have a home that it's gone up in value, but you're happy there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you can't find, if you go and buy something else, let's say you don't qualify for 60 or 90, even in that situation, if you're going to switch houses, it might cost you $300 or $400 a month more just in taxes.
Oh, absolutely. Depending on how long you've been in the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you've been in the home 20 years, let's say, you know, it'll cost you $400 or $500 potentially a month in payment just for the taxes, even if you buy the same amount of home.
And one other change that they've made is that HELOCs, so a home equity line of credit, is no longer deductible. You used to be able to borrow against the house and have a HELOC, and that would be entirely deductible. The idea was that you would use the money on your house, no longer deductible. And if you do a cash out refinance, if you refinance and the principal amount of the loan that you had changes upwards. So if my loan amount is $500,000, but I have a whole bunch of equity, so I want to pull 50 grand out, but it's going to make my principal go from 500 to 550, it will be affected by these new laws. Otherwise, it wouldn't be.
Right.
So
there's several things in there to consider. And also for people who do want to sell. Let's say you do want to sell, but you somewhat feel stuck because you're not sure where to go and you don't want to rent, but there's hardly anything to buy. But let's say you're empty nested. You don't need this big house anymore. You want to change school districts, or you want to get closer to work, or whatever it is. You have a reason to sell, but you haven't because value's been going up and you can't find a place to go. Renting actually starts to make even more sense now. Because,
in your opinion?
Because it's not as much of a tax consequence anymore. With the doubling of the standard deduction and the increased child deductions, you have an opportunity to not take as big of a hit as you think, by making that switch. It's still not a permanent solution. Renting can't be a permanent solution.
Right.
But it becomes less of a sore thumb of an in-between solution if you say, hey, listen, my kids have all moved out of the house now. I work in downtown. I don't need the house in Carlsbad or Encinitas. We've lived in Encinitas and they finished school. I'm ready to move downtown. You can go and you can rent if you have to. If you really can't find anything, you can go down there and
So
rent.
this is what I love about Facebook Live, is that there's the ability to have interaction with actual people that are asking actual questions. So James is talking about being stuck.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what you're recommending to James, just so I understand, is sell it, take the money, because it's probably a primary residence, get out of the higher interest rate, and rent. And wait out the market, and wait for it until it drops, and then be strategic. You gotta be right, as we've talked about. You got to be right twice, is what you're recommending. Sell it now at the right time. Hopefully, it's the right time, and buy it when the market turns. I disagree.
Not necessarily when the market turns.
No,
but just when it's a more convenient and comfortable situation for you. If you're not happy with the inventory, or every time you find a house and you can't get into it, or they won't accept your offer maybe because it's contingent upon you selling your house, then you remove that situation. Take step one. It's a two-step process. I got to sell this house, I got to buy another house. Don't think you have to take them both at the same time. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
You don't have to.
As we've talked about, when you do the contingent purchase, when you do two things at once, when you sell and buy, and you're contingent, meaning that you need to take the proceeds from the sale in order to purchase, it makes the transactions dependent upon each other, and it makes it so that you don't get as top dollar on the sale, and you don't get as good a deal on the purchase, because you need the other one to go through.
Right.
And I think that in James's situation, it's more about identifying what are some possible solutions. Is a HELOC, although it's not a write-off anymore, is that a potential solution? If you've got a bunch of equity, can you pull out? You feel stuck in this home for whatever reason that may be. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's interest rate, maybe it's those kinds of things, but maybe it's looking for a better school district, or tired of this neighborhood, or whatever it may be. A HELOC would be one way to get the money out and purchase independently, and then then you can go back and figure out, do I rent the property out, do I sell it,
if you can qualify.
If you can qualify, without a doubt.
It's tough for a lot of people.
And the lending is certainly more conservative, which I think is a very good thing these days.
Definitely.
But figuring out what are solutions. I always advocate, if you don't need to sell, I don't know the age of James or what his life situation is, but if he's in a situation where he could weather the storm for 10, 15, 20 years, I think it may make sense for him to keep the property, look at other potentials, as long as he's in something that's fixed, where the rate isn't changing, the payment isn't changing, he's not going to be over-leveraged, where there's the potential that he could rent the property out. And I mean, these days the rental market is so absurd. People are paying obscene dollar amounts in order to rent.
I have a secret tip on that.
Oh. I want to be in on the secret tip. No, whisper it.
So what the tip with the rental market is this. Don't just look in the MLS.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't just look in Craigslist.
Yeah.
Drive around, talk to people, ask people, hit your sphere, tell people on Facebook, ask real estate agents.
Absolutely.
Ask people.
Yeah.
Because what happens is now, because there are a lot of people who want to rent in different places, they go so quickly. People don't have to put ads up.
Right.
They just breathe it in. They just whisper, "I have a place for rent." And it's just like
true story. This morning, I have clients that have had a rental. They had somebody in there for 10 years. That person left. They were asking me about, hey, where should we advertise these kinds of things? He called me this morning. He said, we had the painter. He came over and painted the house. We told him, he asked what we were doing. We said we were renting it. He said, can I rent it? That's how it, they didn't even advertise, just because, I completely agree.
That's what I mean.
And it is so difficult to rent. The housing market, there is a shortage. The rental market, it's obscene. It's not even fun. People are, I mean, just because it is so difficult. And things move very, very quickly. And who the hell is in a position where they are able to move in a week?
No, that's what they'll ask for.
Yeah.
Well, they want you to start paying rent right away.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing to do if you're trying to if you find a place that you're trying to rent and you really want it, you need to say, hey, listen, I've got the deposit and first month's rent check already written.
Yeah.
I'm going to come take a look at it, and if I like it,
I'll move in, and although you may not actually
right
be
away.
moving in,
right.
Although then you got to give notice that you're, that's the only way to do it. Is that 1 month
In a lot of
overlap.
cases, it is.
I don't want to say that's the only way to do it, because that certainly is unfair.
But you need to be very aggressive about
You need
that,
to be aggressive.
because someone is going to. Just
And
like
if you're looking in a specific neighborhood or a specific community, or your kids need to stay in the same school district or something that's more challenging, all the more reason. I mean,
you got to drive the neighborhood too.
Yeah.
Like in Del Mar especially. You got to drive the neighborhood and look for rent signs in the yard, because that's as far as people need to go. They don't need to go to Craigslist. They don't need to do the MLS. They just throw a sign in the yard, and they're not there for very long, a few days at the most.
And everybody is so risk averse these days with wire fraud and all the different things. The last thing that I want to do as a homeowner is put my rental up on Craigslist and then start going through people, feeling like people are going to take advantage of me. Do they think the property's vacant and they're just going to show up there, or try to, who knows?
Pretty much all that's in the MLS now for rentals is like vacation rentals,
yeah,
or short-term rentals. James says, in higher price points, inventory will be tight because of new factors in play on jumbo loans and people staying put. I don't know about, the higher price points are always hard to predict what's going to happen. When we say higher price points, I'm usually thinking above $1 million.
Right.
If you're above $1 million, you're definitely in the jumbo range. You're in the jumbo range before you get to $1 million, but if you're over $1 million, we call that luxury for the most part. That is maybe shifted now to 1.3 or something, but 1.2, 1.3. But $1 million plus for a home, it's a lot of money, and you can get a lot. This is a game we used to play a few years back. If I gave you $1 million cash right now, so you had to buy real estate, where would you buy? What would you buy in San Diego? Where and what?
Me?
Yeah, that was a game we used to play.
Yeah.
And it's a fun game, because you go, man, you start looking around, you go, man, I got options here.
Absolutely.
Like, I can buy something sick in Chula Vista,
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Or Mount Helix, I can get something disgusting if I want, just something absurd.
Yeah.
Or I can go, beachside. I can go Carlsbad maybe.
Yeah.
And get something nice near the, close to the water.
Yeah.
Or oceanside. Or I can go inland. I can buy a palace
Well,
with an ocean view.
And it depends. Are you looking for a good investment? Are you looking for the emerging local markets? I mean, I think Santee is blowing up with all of the construction that's out there. East County, San Marcos is another community.
I can't get on board with Santee.
Why can't you?
I just can't get on board with it.
Well, I think that...
Nothing against Santee.
No, but I think
I have great friends in Santee.
The new...
I love Santee.
My in-laws live in Santee. The North Parks, the Hillcrests, the South Parks, those communities, I don't want to say that they're built out, but they're priced out. If you want 1,200 square feet, you can spend 1.8. I wish that was an exaggeration. But in Santee, what you can get is and so that hub, the 56, the 5 and the 163, those communities that have good access to downtown, the prices have gone crazy.
True.
If you want a commute that can still be reasonable, and I think the 52 freeway is one of the worst freeways in San Diego County during rush hour. But in terms of mileage, it really isn't that far to a lot of those communities, to the downtowns, to
Santee?
Santee.
Yeah, no, there's nothing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying I'm not on board with it. Like, I've never looked to purchase a home in Santee. Nor would I probably. But where I have looked at Vista. I've looked at Vista.
My wife is from Santee. We were purchasing a house, a primary residence, several years ago, and we did not look in Santee, even though our in-laws are there, and we love our in-laws dearly. I think that there is still, I think Santee's 10 years away.
You think it still has room to grow?
I think
after all this?
I think it's 10 years away until it's more than just development. It's going to be infrastructure. It's going to be schools. It's going to be roads. It's going to be parks. It's going to be those kinds of things. Shoot, they're putting new construction everywhere. Santee is blowing up with new construction.
Clearly, the people running Santee, and I know Rob McNellis and Dustin Trotter and some of the big names over there, and these guys, I mean, they're making the right decisions. They're giving businesses incentives to come to the area. They're running the town really well. And they're trying to make it self-containing, where like if you live in Santee, you don't need to go anywhere else.
Absolutely.
And that's really, really smart. And people who've invested in real estate in Santee can smack me in the face with their $100 bills, like at any point in time. But it's just not for me. But if I have, in other words, if I had the $1 million, you tell me where am I looking, that one doesn't come on the radar.
Well, and I will say there's a good demographic of buyers that relocate into San Diego County, and we look at some of these different communities, Escondido, hey, what can you get in Valley Center, Fallbrook? Let's go down the 15 freeway. I mean, Poway can oftentimes be priced out because the schools are the best in the county.
Super hard.
Just public schools anyways. And a lot of people, the feedback that I've heard of the Santees and the Escondidos and the Fallbrooks is, hey, if I'm going to move to San Diego from Wisconsin or wherever I'm moving, I want to be within at least some kind of shot of the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't want to be moving to a super hot desert community, even though San Diego's all desert.
Yeah.
I think that there is a lot of that people feel like, I want to be closer. I think that San Marcos is like 8 years ahead of where Santee will be. That they're building that infrastructure that they've got, and granted they've got the college, which is going to go Division I. They've got, I mean, there's a variety.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That college is going to Division I?
Yeah, in some, I mean, I think that they have to do it sports-wide, but
Yeah, they have to do sports-wide.
so yeah.
Steve gets this inside information because he's a basketball referee.
It certainly helps. UCSD is going to go Division I.
I did hear that.
Yeah,
That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
I think it's good for the community.
It's great for the community. It's great for the school.
Yeah,
It's great for a lot of things. But isn't that a little crazy?
I mean, it's as a tangent discussion, which is, why is it that a Division I sports school will get more alumni contributions than an academic institution? I went to UCSD, and UCSD is one of the best in many different academic fields, but they have very little alumni support
Really?
as comparative to the USCs and the UCLAs and some of those communities. And I think that sports will help. Being able to be seen on the map and having UCSD play San Diego State, play USD, play whoever these other schools may be, all of that is going to help.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at UCSD Medical Center, and it's been a little while since I've looked into medical schools, not for me, but I mean, it was like them and UCSF or USF.
Yeah.
So
They're up there.
They're up there. They're some of the best.
And what a campus, too. My
Oh,
goodness.
it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Unbelievable. One of the best ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think UCSD's 2020, something like that. I suspect that Cal State San Marcos, I don't think that they've put any dates on it, but I think it'll be like 2024 or something like that.
Okay. Well, I mean, but Cal State San Marcos, again, San Marcos, one of those places I would take. I'm not Santee bashing here, but I'm just saying that's a place I would look at and go, they've got their shit together. And
Right.
that's a place I could look at and say, look at what they're doing with the college, and they're doing something too where if you live in San Marcos, you get free the first 2 years free or something at the school. They're doing something like that.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Free tuition. Check into that. Look into that with your contacts.
I will. at the Cal State San Marcos.
At Cal State San Marcos, if you live in San Marcos, they're giving you the first 2 years, I believe, free or something.
I'm
like
gonna
that.
I'm gonna need to fact check that.
Fact check that. I cannot. Let's see. Who was it that told me that? It was.
You talked to a guy who talked to another guy who's former roommate.
It's a guy who lives there, and actually I remember it was the guy who runs creditandcollectionnews.com. very reputable guy, runs a news website, aggregation website, came on the show. We were talking about several different things. We argued a little bit, but he had some great ideas about, and we were talking about student debt and what the solutions could be. And he was like, here's my solutions. He's like, I got 10 solutions for you. And he started listing them off, and one of them was that you can get free tuition there if you live there. So.
Oh, he gave solutions of things that are actually already
in place.
In place.
Yeah, these are things you don't know about that, because people are like, gosh, college is expensive.
Do you still got eligibility? Can you play some basketball at Pastor St. Margaret's?
I could cross you up.
Next time, Facebook Live.
Next time. Steve would be blowing the whistle, and I'd be dribbling in circles. I mean, I think that, of all those places, and I don't know, we were talking about the new home buyer in San Diego and essentially what they're looking at and what they have to contemplate in a market that's been straight up for 7 straight years. The challenges that they're facing, the things that are happening with taxes, how that all comes back full circle to, what do I do and who am I? And I think that new buyer, so I think we're in a glut. And the reason why we're seeing an inventory issue is because we have people staying in their homes longer and nothing filled the void.
I agree.
The next group of home buyers are going to be way more picky. They're going to wait longer until they're super ready. They don't mind renting and saving money. They don't mind waiting and just buying one house in their life.
Right.
They don't seem to subscribe to the idea of starter home, move up, rental property. They don't want that.
I'm hopeful that I don't want to say our next generation, that makes me sound very old, but the next group will be patient, because I think that to unfairly characterize an entire group, the group that we're dealing with right now is not patient at all. Is the expectation is that I'm a millionaire at 30 and that I've got a home and a rental and I want it now. And I think that the process is so important, and that the real estate growth is supposed to be, in my opinion, slow, steady. It's not supposed to be 10% a year for 7 years in a row. I mean, the real numbers are 6% a year the last 3 years is what the California Association of Realtors has said. So,
well, but check this out. I mean, how much did the S&P gain last year? 20% or something like that? Where's Siri when you need her? Hold on, I can type this in pretty quick. How much did the S&P 500 go up in 2017? Google is so smart. It just filled it in for me. I think it was like 20-something%.
You're going to have to log out of your Facebook.
No way.
What does it say?
No, okay, that's not it. I had to log out of my Facebook. How come? All right. Anyway, doesn't look like it's that easy to find, but it was like 20%. It was up a lot, and I think based on tax cuts, we were talking about this morning. I think that the Dow Jones will go up 20% this year.
What do you think in the housing market?
Housing market's probably going to be pretty flat, I think. I don't think you'll see prices go up too much, but you will in certain areas. But overall, it'll be flat. Like part of the issue right now is that we're looking at it and going, well, we're near all-time highs, for the median price. But yeah, there's still some areas that are still pretty depressed. There's more short sales. There's more foreclosures that are happening right now. NODs are happening. So there's certain areas that just didn't recover. Other areas have over-recovered probably. And those are the areas where you'd be concerned about a bubble forming. I think if those come back a little bit and then the other ones normalize, we'll see a pretty normal marketplace. I think the areas that have gone up a lot don't have a lot more room to go up, but that's just in the short term. We'll see what happens with interest rates. I think that's going to be a really big deal.
I agree. At the same time, I would say I've heard that interest rates are going up for 7 years.
I don't think they're going to go up. But if they do, that could be
potentially. I agree. I'm not convinced that if a homeowner has $200,000 in a primary residence net after commissions and taxes and fees, as a primary there is no taxes, up to $250 as a single, married $500. I'm not convinced that you take that money out and you put it in the S&P or the Dow Jones because you can get 20% on it. In the end, you're going to need a place to live, and I'm not seeing enough. You like always and never. I'm going to make I'll make a stance. Your stance is San Diego County as a whole is going to be flat in real estate in 2018. Is that fair? Micro, there'll be.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me see what word Steve's putting in my mouth right now. Say it again.
So what you just said, roll the tape back. What you just said is that in your opinion, San Diego County residential real estate as a whole will be flat.
Yeah.
I disagree. I would say, and
as a whole, median
as
price.
a whole, yeah, median price, not looking at just Santee, just San Marcos, just Del Mar. I would say that San Diego County as a whole, my opinion for 2018, we're going to again see another maximum 6% increase.
I think it's going to be the same kind of year.
I think it's going to be the same this year as it was last year. I think that what we will see is we will see fear increase. I think that we will see more buyers more uncomfortable with the market. Last year, and again, as we've talked about, not trying to base the macro of the market, what's happening in the micro of my business, but last year started in 2005, 2017, I had more cancellations of escrows in 2017 than from 2005 to 2016 combined. I think that 2018 that we will see more of that fear step in, where people go, I had to give away everything to get it. I'm not sure. But I think overall, real estate is still going to be a solid, safe investment in 2018.
Wow.
That I'll go on record saying.
Wow. Mark this date down. Steve Pletz, first show of the year.
He's coming out swinging.
He's coming out. It's just, I've learned to just slip them. I'm just slipping them. Okay. So if you're right, that would mean that we have the same inventory issues, that rates stay low, that there isn't a big scare. See how many things have to go right? That there isn't any kind of big scare. I
agree.
In the world economy, that there isn't any kind of big scare in the world of war or anything
I agree.
like that.
And to which I would say I'll put one asterisk on it. If there is a major terrorist attack, if we go to war, if there is something politically that in terms of our relations with other nations that ends up in military action, then I will amend my discussion.
Well, you don't get to do that.
Well, then I'm going to say we're not going to war in 2018, and the real estate market in San Diego County will increase by a maximum of 6%.
Okay, maximum of 6%.
Maximum of 6%.
Median price, okay.
And you're saying, I'm going to give you a range because you said flat. Up or down 2%?
Let's give a delta of plus or minus 2% for both of us. That's fair.
Okay.
Plus or minus 2%.
Yeah, so I can say 4 to 8, and you can say
4 to
2 to negative 2.
2 to negative 2, I'll take that.
I'll take that back.
And yeah.
I want this bread machine back.
The bread machine? Well, no one won it on the show, so no one got CarMax. Although that is actually a really good tip. But I mean,
all the tips that we give on the show are really good.
They're all amazing. Do you have your wallet on you?
I don't. I couldn't bring it in here. It was too heavy.
It didn't fit? Or did what are those called? The things at the airport that they have you walk through. What is that called?
The things.
Security machine. You know, like you walk through it.
Yeah.
Metal detectors.
Yeah.
But they're not metal detectors anymore. They're like screening devices.
Yeah,
The screening device went off when you walked in the studio today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they took the wallet away and said, "I'm sorry, sir, this looks like a weapon."
And I took both hands to pull it out. You always wallet shame me because big wallets.
I have to get it in.
Big wallets always are important.
So the only reason I brought up the S&P and the 20% is because the 6% doesn't sound so crazy when you look at that.
Oh yeah.
And when you look at the tax cuts.
By itself. Yeah.
Right. When you look at the tax cuts and what those are going to bring to the table, I think the Dow will hit 30,000 this year. We're at 25, made a new all-time high today. In fact, I got that one on shortcut. It made a new all-time high today in the Dow, hit 25,500 and change, up 200 points. A new all-time high. You're going to hear that over and over this year. All-time high, all-time high, all-time high. And this could be, in my opinion, another reason why people would not get into real estate. Not because
they want to buy at an all-time high in the stock market?
because they don't want to use that money that they have invested as a down payment on real estate.
I agree.
When it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up.
And it comes to a point where people say, as with real estate, where people will say, we're picking on Santee, so I'll pick somewhere else, but no, I'll pick Santee. That someone will say, I've got a Santee home. It may say on paper that the value of this is $700,000. I don't believe this is a $700,000 house. I'm going to get out. In the same way that somebody may eventually say, hey, you know what? I bought UPS stock at $50. Now it's at $100. Now it's at $300. Bitcoin is a perfect example. I don't even know what it's at today. 20,000. Seems like every 10 minutes it goes up. I met with a guy today at lunch. He invested $3,500 a few months ago. He pulled out on top of that 3,100. So he put in 35 and he made his 35 back and got an extra 3,100. But I think that all those things are they come to points where people get afraid and say, it can't go up much longer than this. I would say that's what you're saying a little bit about the real estate market. It can't continue to go up, is your argument. And
I think the fundamentals are working against it.
Right.
I think they are.
And I think for a lot of amateur, and I would say that you're more savvy than the average person, just because you're in it all the time. I would say that for the average consumer that looks at the stock market and goes, wait a second, I've just made 25% or whatever the number is on the money that I invested. Sounds great, but eventually those numbers get too high and people get uncomfortable and say, I'm going to sit in cash. I'm not convinced that, and I will say one of the things that people like about residential real estate or real estate in general is that it's tangible. And not to say that UPS has trucks and commercial spots, and I mean they're tangible as well. But real estate is something that I can feel today, and I think that's what makes it that's why it appeals to a lot of
as an investment.
As an investment.
So, and I will tell you this, and I'll pull it. Actually, here's Bitcoin, in case you haven't seen that lately. It's currently trading. Let me get this back on the radar here. 13,275 is where it's trading on Bitstamp.
That's right. It came back.
So, that actually looks like a pretty good place to buy it based on historical prices here. Definitely a good place to buy would be in the 11.8, right in this range here. But yeah, so it's down there. Now, but I will tell you this. If you go and you look at, let's just take, so you're saying no more. You said earlier that San Diego real estate would go up by no more than 6% this year. You said that.
I said that.
And I gave you the plus or two.
Right.
Plus or minus 2,
yes.
so 4 to 8. If you look at some of these companies like, this is BP, okay, so that's British Petroleum. Most famous for their big oil spill. But look at this. Now this is after a huge year last year. Look at this down here. That yield, the dividend that you get for owning this stock is 5.6%.
Yeah.
Now, if the stock price goes down, just so you understand, so the dividend is $2.40 per share. Based on today's share price, that's how you get the yield, which is the percentage. If the share price goes down, the yield goes up.
Right.
So if you're an investor with cash, in my opinion, this is just as sexy, if not sexier than real estate at this point in time, because of the fact that I can look at it and go, you know what, I'm not buying this at an all-time high. If I look at the chart there, I can see, it didn't, well, let's actually look at like the 1 year.
that's the last
today.
24 hours. That does kind of look like an all-time high.
No, not really. I mean, look, there you go. There's 5 year. So, I mean, not buying this at an all-time high.
Yeah.
I'm getting 5.6% cash. I'm getting that $2.40, which adds up to about 60 cents per quarter per share. And if it comes in, I feel great about buying more because my yield's going to go up. My average yield across the board is going to go up. So we could have the stock versus real estate argument some other time.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying right now, you're bullish real estate and you're saying 6% tops with the Delta 8, and I'm telling you that that's for sure.
Which of course doesn't take into account rental income, doesn't take into account depreciation and the tax benefits. I mean, if I buy, you can look up briefly UPS. I imagine that it's trading at $120 a share, and it's probably a dividend of 50 cents. And so they'll give us the yield on that. The benefit of if that doubles and all the different things in terms of the leveraging money on the real estate side, but more importantly, what I would say with the real estate side is that you can depreciate it, you can get the income that comes in from rentals, and the rental market is silly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying that you can pay down principal, gain 6%, and get cash flow, and have depreciation, all these things built into one asset class.
Yeah. No, yeah, we'll have this argument some other time. I'm not ready for all your number rounding and all this stuff. You don't even have your wallet for me to make fun of you right now.
That's exactly
I'm going to
it.
have to make sure you have it next time.
I'll have my bread machine next time.
I'll bring it back. I'll give it back to you. Steve, I got this this door prize.
Wait,
for
isn't
you
this
here.
the one stolen
Dang
from
it.
old school? Yeah.
Thanks for coming on today, man. Great
Hey,
stuff. Always
thank
good
you.
to see you. Tremendous. Thanks for tuning in and for commenting away. Share this if you want to make your friends smarter than everyone else. We'll see you next time.